Welcome to the Rebirthing Breathwork Summit, a free online event where you'll learn to integrate the power of conscious energy breathing to transform your mind, body, and spirit. Share this online event with your friends and family and join the conversation inside our Facebook group, Rebirthing Breathwork Summit. And now your host, Devendra Narayan.
Welcome everyone to another session in the Global Rebirthing Breathwork Summit. This session is called Knowledge and Tool of Breathwork for Here and Now. And our guest speaker is Sam Reda. Born in Beirut in 1961, Sam grew up in Sydney, Australia. A spinal cord injury in a car accident in 1984 set him off on a healing journey which brought him to the magical world of breathwork in 1987 in Australia's Rainbow region. He became a certified breathwork therapist and maintains there are no strict rules as various breathing rhythms are shown to seekers on the path. Breath has helped Sam walk on fire, safely home birth his daughter with his partner, open the way to experiencing channeling, astral traveling, and making rare encounters. Sam has been teaching breathwork skills to help unlock the mind's clutches from our daily lives to experience a life of beauty, innocent charm, mystery, and uniqueness. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a nice introduction.
Happy to have
That's
you.
succinct.
On August 4, 2020, a massive explosion killed over 200 people and injured thousands in your city, Beirut. First of all, our deepest condolences for the loss you, the people of Beirut, and Lebanon have suffered. Since that day, you have been working day and night helping people process and overcome this traumatic event by leading free breathwork sessions. Please tell us about the recovery efforts and how breathwork is helping people there.
First, good evening, everybody. Pleasure to be here with you, Devendra, and with everybody present. And I'm glad to be sharing this with a wider audience that through Devendra's efforts. Yeah, it has been quite a shock, quite unexpected. If anyone's seen any of the footage of the explosion that took place, I think the only time we've seen something similar is when we see footage of the Second World War and the bombs that were dropped in Japan. But this is a much smaller scale, smaller yet equally frightening. The main efforts we've been having to work with, and the wave, like there is an actual physical wave of the explosion or several waves that took place in the explosion, but then there is the emotional wave that has spread throughout. And this is on top of previously building tensions that were created by the corona phase and by other political turmoil that was happening in the country. But this was more like the crescendo, forcing everybody beyond the threshold of tolerance, yet they're uncertain what to do with all these energies that have been bottled up for a long time. We noticed how people are willing to just shed a tear almost instantly once they know how they can shed it without blame or attack, or once they can find an avenue for that tear or that tension to be released. And it seems, and I've been aware of this having worked in Lebanon for a while, there are many modalities or much effort into, as we all know, whenever people want to release tension or make a change, they would go for a holiday or will go out, or the standards of we go shopping, we do things, or we do like a yoga class. I'm a yoga teacher myself, and all these seem to be dealing with the superficial level, yet not many people, not much happens on reaching the person inside. the entity that occupies this body. So we can remove the stresses of the physical and the mental, um, by removing ourselves from a stressful situation. But the part in us, inside, the child in us, also needs to be acknowledged. And since we decided to go out and reach as many people as we can, regardless of their background, whether they are clients, they're interested in breath work or the spiritual journey or not, we just can't, we could see the tension, we could see people just almost looking, what do I do? Show me if you know. So all we could do is, without introduction, without further ado, just sit down, breathe, and we're here to catch your tear. We're here to catch your scream if you want to. And it was interesting to see how many people from different walks of lives, how they're prepared to actually share and actually cry without much introduction, to just come out and express their sad moments. And you could see most people are scared of judgments. And breath work is not about analyzing what comes out, basically just helping people discover that route, that you can release your pain without the mind being part of the process. So without the mind being the filter. So the tear needs to come out as it is. And that's been the interesting part, that without much advertising, without much introduction, we could actually allow people to, or show people how to release that, how to express, um, how to release a cry from the inside, even though we had only just met over the internet for a few minutes at each session we gave. So that's in brief. I hope that answers the question, Devendra. Um, and the turnout has been interesting, and also could see there's a lot of potential. There's a lot more people need to be reached out there. I knew that as the event or the catastrophe, as we move time-wise, as it starts fading away into our memory, into our past, the clutches of the mind of society will start finding a way to come to terms with this. So we had to jump in there as quickly as possible, so that we don't create a pattern of thinking, or as most people do, as often I've noticed in this country, if you feel sad or traumatized by something, you need to have somebody to blame, to attack. So we try to catch as many people as we can, so we don't propagate this constant karmic cycle of I'm pained, I will attack this person or accuse this person, and then this shifts to the next phase where maybe there's another catastrophe, and then the blame keeps getting shifted back and forth between different aspects of society. So yeah, we'll try to catch as many as we can to diffuse the pain without going into political analysis or blame or societal analysis, or so that people know that the pain is pain, regardless of how it came, regardless of who's responsible. There will be, there are laws, there are, countries have their own ways of dealing with responsibilities of such level. But as humans, we really need to come to terms with that pain first, without attacking. Just because I feel pain, I allow myself to feel pain. And that was the difference. We noticed some people who are familiar with this culture of pain is pain, it is what it is. They could actually receive the news with a shock, but they could deal with the shock and be present to assist others, to help. Those who hadn't looked inside, hadn't given themselves that chance, they were forced to look inside. And they automatically naturally went to those who said, calm down, breathe, let's do something. Yeah, and so the interesting part is we found a few people who were present, who could see Now we survived this explosion. Let's see what we can do. Yeah, and everywhere you go, there are little candles of light. You know, people who stay there and just get up and move on and help. Yeah. Thank
So
you. I
Sam,
don't know.
yeah, and you said so much in there, and I want to take a little piece and go deeper into it. It's so easy to fall into the blame, the anger, the fear game, especially with the massive shock. I mean, just watching that video was terrifying, and you were there as we were exchanging some messages. You were a few kilometers away from the
Yeah,
epicenter of that explosion. And
very
you
true.
beautifully said that, to bring the mind to the present. And it's, not to fall into this cycle of let's blame others, let's vent it out, the anger. These are such common emotions that will come out. How walk us through this change of the mind, this fluttering emotion, thoughts, anxiety that comes about through a tragedy like this, and how do you work with it, and how are you working with
Okay. Well, I'll share my experience as it was. That would probably be, a real life experience. And also, and that's probably the culmination of practicing breath work over many years. As I was standing in a coffee shop and as someone was about to pass me a cup of coffee, the glass of the opposite building just exploded both ways on either side of us. And just between me and that building, there was just one pole and there was glass everywhere. And we thought the explosion took place in the building, but it was actually a kilometer or about a kilometer away in the other direction. But that's how close it felt. And that was the wave of the speed of the sound and other stuff that was part of the explosion. Everybody thought it took place in there. So the first thing is like, you're alive. Okay. And I noticed how everybody was in panic. So for me, it was like taking a deep breath and knowing that, there's nothing penetrated your body. Okay, so you're still breathing. But I noticed probably most people's reaction is they were starting to run around, literally running around in circles outside the coffee shop. The person owning the coffee shop wanted to run to a place where he thought it was an earthquake, so he wanted to run to an open space. Everybody had their own interpretation. To me, was to come back to stay in my body as I breathe, and be aware that when there are people panicking, someone has to stay sober. And it became automatically, I'm one of the people responsible to stay sober because I could see panic. And that's a new situation. So to just breathe and start seeing that panic state everybody was in, not to buy into it, because I could see how it just starts spreading between everybody. It's like, did you see this? Here's my video. I don't know. I heard, like, everybody's almost yapping away unconsciously. And I knew not to partake, to listen to each person. And like, they come up to you, did you see what happened? Do you know what happened? Is like, and to me it was like, yes, it was a sound. It sounds like an explosion. No, it's an earthquake. Let's see. Let's see. We basically just let's see. And often with these people, I would just take a deep breath with them, and then they just move away to the next person. And with each person that I came across, even the person in the cafe, he wanted me to run, and he even grabbed me by the arm. Let's go, and you have to be. It's an earthquake. I said, no, calm down, take a breath. So he ran around to a place to be safe, open space in case it's an earthquake. So that's in a blast that is unique and very frightening, and that by then we had known the extent of it. We experience these things every day in relationships, emotions, and especially when there's conflict, are almost equally toxic. When someone, for some reason, decides they've been hurt by you, or our subconscious mind decides it's been hurt by someone else. It feels like an attack. And normally, most of us are trained to start accusing the other. Now, if you create the safety that if we take permission from another person who's willing to work with us on it, say, look, I may need to, the only way I know to release this emotion is to attack you, to say, you're so bad, you blah, blah, so if you can give me that permission and feel safe from my attacks, just so that I can get in touch with my own truth, so I can release these emotions. So if you get that permission, then this process becomes a consensual process, and the attack is no longer feels an attack, or the recipient will take an active role in supporting you to grow through it, and they may discover parts of that truth. They may realize that whatever they had said that made you feel attacked, it wasn't exactly what they wanted to say, or didn't come out the way they meant it, and that can facilitate communication, and also gives them the opportunity to do the same, while you can be there to hold them, to catch them while they want to lose themselves. Yeah. So one of the ways is, and if I'm by myself, to learn to accept the pain. Now, I know in many instances, when we feel under attack by anything or anyone, okay, even if we feel like we're being victimized, then sometimes the pain is too hard. We need to blame it on someone else. But as soon as we blame it on someone else, as if, I always like a Buddhist explanation to this, and I think it's Buddhist, is like, if I'm in a state of sadness or anger, and in that time I attack someone, and that's like taking this state of sadness or anger, taking a seed from it and placing it outside in somebody else's life. And then I come back to my state a few days later or a few hours later. This will dissolve, I will pass, it'll become part of my past, or the past of my mind, because the mind will naturally get busy with other things. So this starts dropping in the background. But that seed of anger or sadness that you may have planted outside in somebody else's life, that you had blamed or made responsible for it, now starts growing while your attention is with something else. It starts growing. And suddenly it comes back, finds its way back. It's growing so much that it finds its own way back to you. How would that mean in reality? Let's say I work in an office, I'm annoyed with somebody. So instead of processing the feeling, allowing the feeling, breathing with it, and this is where the breath is really important, to always allow myself to feel the pain to its end, to its end. Because often at its end, there's a point where I had chosen the pain. I am in charge of, I chose, instead of a reaction, a response of joy, into a response of anger or pain. So it was my choice. But that may be too philosophical for now. So I'm in the office, somebody did something that upset me. I feel the pain, I react to them. They may have meant it or not, it doesn't matter. So I attack or I lash out at them, and then I go and deal with my pain. A few days later, they felt attacked. They may have been joking. They may actually like to play with you, or they may not have meant it, or they may have been unconscious, or they may have been under certain other pressures, or they have a whole story. Each person is a universe of events, is a universe of lives, all interacting, and we meet in an office situation. So 3 days later, they may have thought, why did you say that to them? They may have had good feelings toward you, but they didn't feel they deserve that statement from you, that moment. etc., 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 and build on a few other scenarios. Suddenly you're in a meeting and you're expecting to hear something, and they come out, this seed of anger or sadness will tarnish whatever they're going to say next time you meet in 2 or 3 days' time. Now, imagine if while I'm sad or angry, I lash out at everybody around me. So suddenly you have, let's say, with your partner, with the person at the coffee shop, the person who's driving your car, or the chauffeur, or the bus driver, and then, you know, you can imagine on that day, on that morning when you supposedly had a bad morning, you put seeds everywhere, and there's going to be 1 week later, you're going to pass through all these new plants of seeds of anger or whatever you put out there, and so you're going to harvest the fruit. So that's on one side. The main lesson of this explosion, that could have been me, because only a few minutes before, about actually, I think it was about 20 minutes before the explosion, I was sitting right opposite the place where the explosion was. I spent about 15 to 20 minutes sitting there. This has also helped shrink down the process to its most basic, purest form. And really, there are so many modalities that are too luxurious in a time where things are moving very fast. You know, overnight there are countries at war. Overnight we have corona. No one would have anticipated this, where people are on their own. And really, so we have to get to a point where we learn to get in touch with who we really are, and inside who we really are, inside us, there is a reserve, there is a doorway to so much beauty and self-acceptance that can make much of these difficult things easy, like simple. It's just about acceptance. To accept that at any moment, this could be the last moment I'm speaking with you. You know, you may never see my face again. And it's really about letting go. And this is practiced in breath work with each exhalation, because we simply always say, or I often, when I'm introducing people into breath work, I mention that when we first come into life, when we are born, when we come out of our mother's womb, prior to that, we don't breathe. Our oxygen is supported through the umbilical cord, the umbilicus. As soon as we're born, soon after, through some natural mechanism, the oxygen starts coming in through the lungs, and we begin to breathe automatically, naturally. We don't have to get a slap, you know, it just happens. And the first breath is an in-breath. That's the first thing we do. And after breathing, after a whole lifetime, when death comes, we release an out-breath. No matter when that happens, whether I've taken a full breath in or I've exhaled. So anytime death occurs, exhalation takes place naturally by itself. So really, our life is a swing between we wanting to breathe in and letting go of whatever we've taken with our in-breath, with the exhalation. So the exhalation is always a letting go, and a letting go has to be total and complete. And whenever it's total and complete, all relationships are brought back to life with all the basic natural gifts that any child or any dog can give you. You notice, like you can see there's a joy in a dog's life, a dog that will look at you as if they forgive you, or they live in a constant state of forgiveness. If anything goes wrong, they're always there to love you. So does a child. So do we as children. So do we as humans. That quality exists within us. And we can only touch it, can only find it, tap into it by completely letting go. When we let go with an exhale, or when we let go in a forgiveness process. Once you let go totally, that, for example, I was in a chat with my daughter who's in Australia at the moment, and I felt through, due to differences, that I had to let go totally of her. And just by doing that, like totally let go, even through social media, not to see much of her, because the more I see her, the more I feel like I miss her and I want to make contact. And she may be in a different world. You know, she's busy at the moment. She's doing her own life, and we haven't seen each other for about 2 years, even though we're closely, strongly connected. I was there at her birth. So just by letting go, I realized that there were certain expectations creeping in alongside my missing her. I miss her, but there's expectations that to hear from her, that she ought to contact me or at least say hi. And that was an expectation. And that means I hadn't let go. As long as I was expecting, then I'm still holding on to an idea from before the last breath. So I really had to let go of all that. And by doing that, suddenly she started calling. And it was refreshing to notice almost the synchronicity. I won't say this led into that, but the synchronicity. And so when she called and we responded, it was free from any charges that, expectations from me to her or from her to me. It was actually two free beings exchanging a moment of pure love. It's like, I miss you, I miss you too. Yeah.
That's beautiful, Sam. I want to
Thank you.
read something that you wrote to me in an email, and then we can talk about it. You said, all protocols and introductions feel unnecessary now. Philosophy, social media presentations feel unwanted and cannot breach the blank, hollow gaze in people's eyes. If what we offer does not work now in the shortest, quickest possible time, it never will.
Yes.
So there are lessons to be learned for the entire breathwork community around the world,
Yes.
who are helping those caught in the middle of chaos. So what can you say about this based on this personal experience that you are having?
Simple as to have your arms open and really with looking at those hollow gazes with the gaze of pure love, really love, and offering that hope. Yeah, we have to hold on to that hope inside as we look in those eyes, and just with the intent that you are there for them, like a mother for its new child, like a lover for, like Rumi would say about the God that he seeks everywhere. And that's with any person, to just look in their gaze in their eyes, holding on to that, offer hope, and just say, take a breath, breathe with them until you feel that vibration of they feel whatever needs to come out with their breath, while you are there just gazing, looking in their eyes and holding that space for them to be whoever they want to be, non-judgmentally, whether they want to cry. And even within that process, people can attack, lash out, etc., knowing that you are saying to them, you can do all that until you can see the absurdity of it once you release all that stuff. And that's the main lesson. And to show them how to breathe, just be there, breathe, connect your breath. I'm with you. Let it out, whatever it is. I'm not here to judge you. And if I need to cry with them, I will cry with them. Sometimes we are touched. We are all humans. They may express something that I feel. So I express that. I join them. I'm not this perfect practitioner or healer who doesn't feel anything, just sits there like, I'm not touched by any of these emotions. No, to just be as real, as normal, as equal, as pained as anybody else, to be there as a brother or as a sister or as a mother. Yes. Yes.
Was there something else you wanted to say, Sam?
No, that's really mainly, it's to be there as real as we can. That's the main thing. To be there fully present, with our breath, with our eyes, with our heartbeat, with our compassion, non-judgmentally, no matter what. That's really the main lesson. And without presentation, to just be there, as if you go ready to hug someone, if they can take it. Some people can't, whatever, to just be there. Just be there.
And that's something that is so embraced by this breathwork community, in holding space for one another. Especially if you look in a rebirthing session, you have a guide sitting right there who you can trust in a process. And it doesn't have to be an hour-long session. What you're telling me is, even in chaos, you don't need methods to guide you. You can't pull a manual to say, now I need to deal with this situation in 1, 2, 3 these steps. It's just being with people, yes, being present with them, and just this connection, the energy that you keep talking about. As many times we sow the seed of this anger, resentment, but what about the seeds of love and compassion and harmony? Exactly. That we start sowing those, and it's just, we are energy beings, and let that energy spill. And this is so beautifully reflected in your work and all your writings and everything that you are saying here, Sam. So thank you for sharing that.
No worries. Beautiful. Well said. Well put, Red.
So tell us a little bit more on the groundworks, the root efforts that are now underway with you, your students, your colleagues, with various healing modality. It doesn't have to be breath work, but the yoga community. What is going on there in Beirut to really, as you mentioned, this emotional wave that has hit people? And right, we are, I can only imagine how people will hold their breath in such an event like this. And how is this healing community helping each other out in releasing that trauma and wave?
Well, like at every catastrophe, there's always new beginnings. There's an upside to such challenges or scenarios. I noticed a whole after this explosion, through the efforts we've been making, again through the change and the internal shift we and other people have made, there are more people now set on making like real change. And you could see there are, like anywhere in the world, there are organizations that will go out there with all the well-financed, who slightly out of touch with the people. But we've seen a whole army of people who are actually wanting to be on the ground, working with people directly in the quickest way possible. And we've started networking, and there are ideas being brought together on ways to fund and finance larger operations. We decided to speed up our training, breathwork training per se, so that we have more people on the ground, approaching and facing as many people as we can at the same time. This has been an interesting shift, and it's been clear that there's room for it. Finally, there's room for this, because we've been talking about this for a long time, and as long as people have a certain amount of safety cushion between them and the pains they're running away from, and they have many alternatives and options to escape their pains, they didn't have to look and make any profound change in their life, even though many of them say in the quiet moments that that's what they want. They want to make an internal shift. Now, most people are forced to make that shift, and more people are present and say, look, I am ready. I'll be on a task force. Just sign me up. So we're having to also accommodate and shift the way we teach this stuff so that we can spread out, meet the wave that's happening. And that reminds me of also the potential for the near future, I always avoid looking as if to making premonitions, but there is a shift that is taking place, and that's across the different ages, different age groups. Different age groups are now approaching and coming out to say, I want to, like, yeah, I'm surprised at the distances people travel to come and do breath sessions, and the different age groups. People who were too comfortable and would never go down that road. So if this is how far, this places a responsibility to actually also go out to these people, to their areas, which means, again, just like dealing with our own inner pain, we also have to deal with our joy. We also have to breathe with our groups of people and see what responsibilities, how they look when we walk the street, how to feel into them, to feel into how to deliver or how to respond on how to hear societies, to have to fulfill our role in this society. Yeah, I think now I'm kind of drifting a bit. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but once I tune into the future, what could come, it's almost like looking at like a ball of glass and seeing what's crystal ball, and it doesn't make sense, but I know it's needed, and I know much of our presence is needed, just the presence and open door policy. The alternatives of community work, where people can access different modalities of communities, is a bit of a struggle in this country. But I feel that's what is needed, where people can actually not only work on themselves through all the different modalities, as you mentioned, not just breath work, all the other modalities as well, but where people can experience living a community life that has these modalities as the new alternative to the old. It doesn't mean they have to eradicate their spiritual or religious beliefs, which, we all know Lebanon is part of the middle or the crux of the three monotheistic, and now there's more than that. Yeah, but a community living example has to be experienced, so people can feel or experience the modality, how you can be different within a community, and you can be equally loved for the difference, and how you can actually find that any challenge, any differences, any problems, any tension or stresses are actually opportunities for growth, for growing, for learning about each other. Any conflict is actually an opportunity that has brought you and another soul to learn about each other, because your souls have been called to be together maybe for thousands of years. So the conflict becomes a point of meeting and growing together, and of search. It's like, so how come you and I, have this conflict? How come you and I had a difference about this point? Let's work it out. So do you need to cry? Okay, let's cry. Do you need to scream? Yeah, scream at me. So you scream, and then, okay, you scream. Do you feel better now? Like, yes, you feel better. Now let's see. When you were screaming, I felt something. Okay, so then the other person can be there for you, and you let that out. And as you do that, you're discovering, you're unfolding your own soul's purpose. And when that happens within a community that is set on the positive outcome of a conflict, on seeing conflict as an opportunity, as a healthy signal of the soul, it's a completely different perspective. And these communities exist outside this region. I feel all the modalities that are taught here, until they come to be experienced within a confines or the experience of community living, where people live them day in and day out, I think that's what it will make a huge shift. Um, yeah, that will make it not just something that we do to feel better about ourselves as individual, because there's the fear that the me will come back in. Like, now I'm better, now I can. But no, then now I am better and I can give more. Once you're in a community, you can feel as a contributing member that, yeah, through my presence, this community grows together. Other people grow. We discover about each other. We discover that we can give more. Um, yes. But for now, it's step by step. For now, I think the simplifying the trainings, making a larger team, the offers of fundraising so that we can support those who cannot afford to do those trainings, to reach out and cover more areas. That's definitely, the demand is there and the presence is there, and people are saying, I'm ready. And that's on both sides, those who want to help and those who are saying, I want an option. I want to scream. I want to change. Even those who were leading in a political conflict now are more reasonable. They can realize, some people who were in demonstrations for the last year almost, and nearly, doing their own thing. Now they're realizing that some of the things they did in demonstrations were a little too aggressive because they didn't know. And even those are coming up now to breathe because they want to make sense of what they were doing. Yeah. Yes.
Well, thank you for that. So much, such an uplifting message, so much positive, and the vision that you see in the future. It's incredibly inspiring for this global audience to see, Sam. You're truly an inspiration for not just the breathwork community, but just the healing community worldwide.
Thank you.
So would you grace us with a few breathing sessions, some few small breathing practices that if you can speak to it and then lead us into a few practice, that would be really wonderful for the audience.
Sure, would love to. And since we can't do a whole breathing session, but there are a few little techniques that can facilitate, make life a little easier. If that's okay. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a couple of breathing techniques. And before we dive into them, it's very important. It's very important to know and to keep in mind that the breathing does one thing. In the yogic practice, they say life force rides on the back of oxygen. So when we breathe through the nose, we are breathing oxygen in, but life force rides on the back. So the oxygen becomes like an enzyme, and life force rides on the back of this enzyme to go into our body. That's one of the yogic, according to yogic tradition, this is said. What I would like to add to that is our attention, or our consciousness, our awareness. So alongside the breathing, where we send our attention, it makes the whole difference. So alchemically, the attention and the breath together, that's the alchemic combination. That's what makes the whole thing, makes huge shifts in our life. That's what makes the whole experience. That's how we can determine what kind of change we create. So the attention, where we place it, and the breathing is the mechanism that sustains the process with life force, and of course the body. So with our attention is important. Having said that, let's share two practices that can make our daily life or daily interactions easier, much easier. One of them, and this is the core or the bottom line of most meditations around the world, and I've experienced a few and I've been initiated into a few. One of them is as simple as, whenever our mind is busy and we cannot sleep or rest because thinking, even if we are justified to be thinking too much, okay, we have to consider this. And that's almost an epidemic around the world. The mind's non-stop activity. About that, let me share one thing. The mind, if in our work space, or if we have often resort to the mind to sort problems or to sort challenges, let's say, right? So we're thinking to fix problems. If that's our job, that's what we get paid for in our work or whatever we do. So this part of our mind is busy. I say this part, the thinking part. You know, the Japanese will do this. You know, in the West we say this. I don't know, probably because the brain is here. We decide the brain is the center of the mind. I don't know how accurate that is. But let's say the thinking aspect. So if the thinking aspect is busy all day long, it's a bit like a car traveling at 100 kilometers an hour for, let's say, 8 hours, and then you switch off the engine at when you finish your day's shift at work. So let's say you finish work at 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, you're traveling at 100 kilometers an hour, and you switch the engine. But this engine, the car is still going. There is momentum. The momentum continues. So the energy, the thinking energy, the energy of thinking, it still has its momentum, regardless of what the topic is. So you finished working on, let's say, computers at work, or statistics, or economics, or managerial challenges, which is your job, but now you switched off, but the mind continues. Some people go for drinks, smoke, whatever they do, breathe, meditate, yoga, etc. But it's good to just be aware that there's some kind of momentum, and it takes a while for this energy to subside, thinking energy to subside, so you come back to your other parts of you. So that thinking energy has taken our attention all day long. Now, once you're aware of it, it can be as simple as just shifting attention like that. But when we're not aware of it, we end up, as soon as somebody says hi, you say, yeah, hi, but how come your shirt needs fixing, or how come his car, we go into problem solving. And sometimes people just need to listen, need to be listened to or heard. But when the overthinking is still in momentum, we end up wanting to solve a lot of problems to people who are probably not interested, and that can drive us into areas that can be problematic. So what are the ways to seize that, to help slow that momentum down quickly? As we breathe, like now, we can begin. As we're breathing, just become aware of your breath. However it is, deep or shallow, in your lungs, in your belly, sides of your ribs. But to just be aware when the breath enters the nostrils. So as it enters the nostrils, more likely at the edge of the nostrils, the breath is cool. And when we're breathing out, it's likely that the air is warm, the breath is warm, it's been warmed up by the inside. So again, to be aware of the edges of the nostrils, to be aware of the warmth at the edge of the nostrils. So just tuning into this coolness with the in-breath and the warmth with the out-breath. If we do that for one breath, one cycle, inhale and exhale, or one cycle, or 2 cycles, let's say 2 breaths, that's not easy. And often we're told that meditation is difficult. But if we can do that for 1 breath, that means you have meditated. And if for 1 breath you manage to tune into the coolness and the warmth, your brain for that moment, your attention was not with your thoughts, it was on the sensation. You have interrupted that process. If you can interrupt that process for 1 breath, you can do it for 2, and with time you go for 3, and you can go back to those thoughts that you know, the precious thoughts that you want to work out. That's okay. You know, you can go back to them. You can leave them there. But as long as you can do that over time, you start seeing, well, if I can do it for 1 breath, because there will come a moment where you really want to say, I want to stop thinking. You know, that moment will come. So when that moment comes, this is a good skill. You know, 1 breath, 2, 3, 4. That interruption can interrupt that that thinking process, and it becomes your ally. That's one. How was that? How'd you go with that, Devendra?
That was beautiful, Sam. So
Yeah.
could we, because I was also thinking that's a physical sensation is very easy to tap into. So the coolness,
Yes.
warmness, temperature is something that people can sense.
Yes.
Maybe if there's like aroma around the home, somebody is using an incense, that's another one to tag on like your awareness to as it's
Yes.
going in and coming out.
Yeah. Yeah, you can, like you're saying, to send your attention to something other than the thoughts and to aroma, incense, etc. Yes, is that what, if that's what you mean? Yeah, of course, by all means, definitely. Yeah. So what I was when I go to this part is so that you may be riding the train, you may be sleeping, the aroma may be distracting at some stage, or so to maintain the autonomy that the you're born free from attachments.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Sam. Yeah.
Okay, so another one that's I think is really vital, since you asked for more than one, if I may add one more, Devendra, this
Yes,
is really
please.
important. As we are talking now, and I hope whoever's listening, whoever's participating, or may hear uh, this discussion, as we're talking with someone else, often we are involved, like when I speak, when you're speaking, I'm listening to you with my heart and soul and mind, memory, with my senses, and we become totally engaged, and sometimes um, we lose our freedom of what to pick from what you say and what not to. Now this is fine when the situation is amicable and everything is, as they say, honky dory. Now, but when there is conflict, when there is conflict and there's a challenge, or there is a tendency to be extremely careful with another person or with yourself, that's the time we have to engage to be conscious, so that we don't plant those seeds in each other's awareness, in each other's consciousness. One of the things that help is, as we speak, to just be aware of our own breathing as we are talking and listening. And we can begin to do this right now, you and I. So as I'm talking, or as we are, discussing back and forth, to just be aware of your breath. And you will notice, and you can tell me how you feel. So before, when you bring your attention to your own breathing, feeling your breath in your lungs, but you're listening to me saying whatever I'm saying, it's almost like suddenly there's more distance between you, the place that chooses what to take from the conversation, and what's being said. And we become more aware of the pauses and where we are meant to pause, to hear the other, or to allow the other, or to be quiet. And even the quiet moments are not so confronting. The quiet moments are filled with something, with presence. And it is that presence, that quietness, that often people want to escape by saying, oh, let's talk about something else, have a drink. It's like, but you can actually be present with the other.
No, that's powerful, because I was just thinking about, I reflected back on how I was breathing some time ago during this interview, because the anticipation to ask you another question sometimes takes me into holding my breath, right? Because I maybe I like something and then I'm breathing fine. Maybe I don't like something, then I'm holding that breath in the anticipation for, I need to interject and I need to ask a question. But that's such a simple and powerful practice, and I can almost imagine everybody who's having a conversation, can apply that in their practice, and how powerful and how um, if intimate is the right word to use, but in a way that you are totally involved with that person, you're totally with that person when they're speaking. So
Yes,
that's a
exactly.
powerful practice too. Thank you for sharing that, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's funny too.
So if people want to learn more about you and your work, do you have a website, a Facebook page that they can look you up?
Yes, we have a Facebook page called Rebirthing Lebanon. Um, I haven't been a social media apt much. So we've got a huge track record on Google. Anyone puts Rebirthing Lebanon or Sam Reda, a lot of activities come up. But we're now trying to get this social media together because we have to. And luckily, we have a good track record. You put the name and much appears on Facebook, on Google and Facebook. So we're trying to bring it together in an accessible form. We're organizing a website, but it seems often, and this is really important for me to share with everybody, is that first, the work has often been calling more than social media presence. So I'm making social media presence because we have to, but work has been calling. The other more important aspect is that it's important in this work, and it has been important for me, to maintain this inner sense of serenity or joy. There's a sense of joy that's already there. So, and it may not show on the face, but it's like knowing that it is okay. No, I'm happy with my life. And to maintain that in this world and where it's been going to, it takes work. And sometimes more people call for breathing more than my inner state of joy allows. So I think most people would think business-wise this is good. I think no, because if I lose that inner joy, then I'm not giving anything anybody. So it's always a tango between maintaining self and assisting others. And so I prefer to give others that help rather than social media, if it's going to be a choice of this or that. But now we have Rebirthing Lebanon as a website, Rebirthing Lebanon page on Facebook. We have something called Beirut Breathing Circle and the Arab world as well. Now we're spreading into the Arab world, and now more in Europe. Maybe we have to adjust social media titles because more people in Europe have been asking about what we can give. They're hearing our message as thanks to Corona. That's the upside to Corona. Yeah.
Sam, Reda, thank you so much.
I'll be writing a book.
What did you say? Repeat that.
I said, and I should be writing a book. That's what everybody's been telling me. It's almost ready. It's about conscious parenting. So I'll definitely share news about that with you, Devendra, because you've been quite an inspiration to move forward on this stuff.
Thank you so much, Sam, Reda, and thank you for shining your light and seeing so much good in humanity and doing so much work at the grassroots level in Lebanon and in the Middle East. Thank you for your time. Much love to you.
Thank you, Devendra. Thank you. I'm really inspired to see you. Thank you. Thanks. So beautiful to meet you. Thanks.
Thank you for joining the Rebirthing Breathwork Summit, brought to you by Cultivate Prana. To learn more, visit cultivateprana.com or rebirthingbreathworksummit.com.